All right, let's start this a little early today. Hey, how's it going? Can everybody hear me okay? Early birds. All right. Wonderful, wonderful. Very excited. Anything you guys want to talk about? I got a nice lineup for today. Bunch of stuff, about the week ahead. But if there's anything you guys want me to cover, there's a little bit of time left. I'll be happy to do so. A little sip of coffee before we start. We got a few more minutes. Ooh, Tesla. Stressla Tesla. Yes, my favorite ticker to trade. It's very high risk, high reward. What are we looking at now? Let's see where it's at before we start. 427.84, not bad, not bad. It's looking like it's holding up in the market right now. Lyft. All right, let's take a look at Lyft. Ooh, down 10% today on Lyft, huh? Why are we down 10%? Let's take a look at some fundamentals. Florida Homes Investing. Are you in real estate? Let's see. High beta growth. There's no specific catalyst on why Lyft is down. I guess it just has to do with weakness currently in the sector. See where the support is. Oh, wrong Lyft. Lyft is up 3.25%. Let's see. Dun, dun, dun. Hey, Miss Mary. Good to have you. Florida Homes, you should know that I'm in real estate also, and so is Miss Mary, just so you know. We're both in the game, in the real estate game. Stocks and real estate go hand in hand. Got 5 minutes to start. So I'm guessing you do real estate in Florida, since it's Florida Homes Investing. Do I swing or scalp or all? I do everything. I swing, I scalp, I do leaps. I'm very much involved in all of it. I like leaps the most because they provide very large upside if you catch stock names on good dips. Sometimes these names run and they stay flat for a little bit and they inch up slowly. So leaps can be really, really good. Scalping is a great way to trade if you have emotional control or you're like Miss Mary and you're able to read the charts perfectly. Scalping is awesome. I'll try to get to IBIT later and Lyft. We're going to start in 4 minutes. I don't want to pull up everything yet. Sorry for the preemptive excitement. Right now, leaps that I'm in. Let's see. Let's go over some of the leaps I'm in. So I'm in a bunch of different leaps. I'm liking anything that has long-term growth potential. I'm I'm in Tesla leaps. I'm in Amazon leaps. I'm in SoFi leaps. I've even got Ford leaps, believe it or not. Even though it's a dividend stock, I believe it has some growth and it's super stable. Maybe I'll do a little leaps class one of these days. We'll talk about it. Personally, I think if you're an options trader and you're getting lost or you're getting smashed or you're missing the timing, sometimes you trade options and you miss the timing on stuff and you just can't get it right and you just get frustrated. Leaps, I find, are better in that sense. Or, one of the more advanced strategies I've done with leaps, I don't recommend it, but I've done it, is I'll buy a leap on a name that I feel is, there, and I wanted to get in a little bit early, and I don't feel like, spending the money to own 100 shares of the stock, and then I'll roll it back if it dips to a closer date, and I'll pick up a larger portion of them. So we'll get into that another time. All right, let me get started here. Let me get my stuff pulled up. IBIT, ASTS, LPT. All right, I'll try to do my best at the end and scroll back to these names. How's everybody doing today? Everybody doing good in the market? Not be able to get it right on scalps. Yeah, scalping is tough if you don't. Josh provides every morning those entries, and they're so crucial, believe it or not. He's like a wizard with that. You have to know the levels to move, but more importantly, you have to have the discipline to enter and escape fast. The whole idea of a scalp is a quick cut, right? That's what a scalp is, a quick cut. So you got to be in and you got to be out. I actually scalped on point today. It took me months and months and months when I started scalping to get it right. So, today I got in, and the problem is the FOMO hits you, right? You start seeing some volume, you're making some money, you're like 10%, 12%, 13%. All right. And then all of a sudden you're negative 10%, right? So give us something to swing today. Well, it's a low volume day. I agree. Personally, I'm liking the way NVIDIA, I called this yesterday and the video last week. There were two things I was looking for. I was looking for NVIDIA to break up, which it started to do. A lot of people thought it was going to break down. I took the opposite spectrum. It's a strong stock, so if it starts to pull some momentum, it'll move up. But the volume is extremely low, so I do not recommend anything today. You got Powell talking. The morning market's over. I'm personally in some NVIDIA, some Tesla, and some SPY. So those are some three things I'm in right now. Trying to swing for the week. I like Amazon, in a short-term swing. I think it's a safe swing. If I had to give you guys a swing, but we're going to go over it. Me and Miss Mary are going to go over it on Thursday as well. We're going to cover some fundamentals and some stocks after hours in our live, late night session. Please join us. That'll be on Wednesday night at between 9 p.m., 10 p.m. All right, here we go. So, hey everyone, welcome to the premiere of Stock Watch Live. Thanks for joining us. We're going to have it every Monday between 2 and 3 o'clock. It's going to be your prep for the trading week ahead. I'm Tamir Mori. I'm your host today, and we're diving into the post-Thanksgiving rally that had markets feasting on gains, even as half of Wall Street was still digesting their turkey leftovers. It's December 1st, heading into the first full week of the trading month, and we're going to recap on last week's action, update the VIX and fear and greed vibes, of the index, check in on the Magnificent Seven. We'll deep dive into some of my watch list tickers and spotlight on some of the economic stuff we have on deck, including ISM, JOLTS, ADBE, and Nonfarm's Payroll. We got a lot of stuff on the calendar. So whether you're slinging options or you're holding for the long term or you're just trying to stay ahead of everything, this will get you locked and loaded for December's rally potential. So let's jump in. It's my first stream, so I'm not connecting any streaming software or loading everything. I'm just going to monologue it all and discuss it with you after. I want to give you some organic news delivery, some interaction with all of you. We'll get some comments at the end, what you prefer, what you prefer me to jump into. I'll have some guests later, not today, but on different shows, and throw some prizes out there when the group gets big enough. So let's get started. Post-Thanksgiving recap on the VIX update. I have some of my notes here as well, so I didn't memorize everything, but The VIX is a big indicator for the volatility, how much something's going to move. People call it the fear index, right? Last week, the major indexes posted their biggest gains since June, shaking off the November tariff jitters and all these AI bubble fears. The S&P climbed, and it ended up closing slightly above for November. It was down big. People were worried the bears were going to take control, but it didn't work out that way. The VIX plunged over 7.5%, sitting pre-market under 1650. Let's see where it's at right now. Very important. 1673. Okay, so the VIX is still holding pretty low. When the VIX is high, it's time to buy, they say, but when it's low, it's stable. So it's also a very good time. Right now, the fear and greed index was posting extreme fear this morning, which is kind of contrast to the VIX being low. So that shows you that there's a divide with how the market's going to go. We got the Fed speaking tonight. Powell's going to be speaking. And this morning we had some mixed data on the manufacturing. Some things pointing to, getting a little bit better, more factories, more production, and another indicator pointing to, still under where it should be, where it would be in what we call bullish territory, but it's improving. The VIX futures for December, usually are much higher. There's a lot of open interest, 181,000 contracts, underscoring that there's a hedge. People are hedging. The market makers are hedging that there might be a dip. I don't think so. December is generally a very good month post-Thanksgiving. Usually it's somewhat bullish. Small caps like IWM could explode, could hit, much higher numbers, could go up $50 if they break that 256 resistance level. Why am I strong on that? Because they could also pull back to the 238 level. I'm strong on it, and we're going to talk about it on Wednesday night as well, is because IWM is the small caps. It's the Russell 2000, the smaller businesses that rely on low interest rates to be able to borrow and leverage and grow. So when interest rates are down and consumers have more money in their pockets, they tend to do better with the small businesses. The big boys always do stronger when everybody else is weak, right, comparatively. And if there's a small rotation, I could see it going into IWM and these small caps. I was watching this morning, as I like to do, and yesterday, getting prepared for the session, watching all the news indices and all the big players. And, the S&P being up just a little bit for November changes the whole narrative. S&P still has to hold above the 685 level. I'm sure you heard that by Josh and some other people as well. It's a very key level of support right now. Today, it looks like it's climbing a little bit, but it's scaling back. It's at 682, so it's not quite 682.15 right now. It's not quite there yet. We have the whole week for it to hit that level. Tom Lee, if you follow him, predicts a 5 to 7% jump up in December. The Bank of America prediction is that the SPY is going to hit 7,100. Tom Lee's at 7,200 or more. HSBC is predicting 7,500. JP Morgan's predicting 7,500 to 8,000. I'm telling you, it's crazy. Morgan Stanley's predicting 7,800, and Deutsche Bank is predicting it to go as high as 8,000. This is closing out in December. There are some minor predictions that it's going to be around, it's going to stay floating around the 6,800 to 6,900 level, where it's at right now, right in the middle. So I'm pretty bullish based on the analysts, based on what I'm seeing so far. We do have to see, however, some, like I said, the SPY hold above 685. Crypto did not do so well. A lot of people are asking why. Everything has its pullbacks. It peaked in October at 126,000 Bitcoin, and Ethereum looked like it was about to pump, and it didn't. And anything crypto related, such as MSTR or BMNR, all these crypto related stocks, they all tanked. Right now, Bitcoin is sitting at, let's load it up, 85,000. So it's, still inching down, making, lower highs. It was 87,000 this morning when I recorded all my notes, and now it's 85. So I don't know if it's reaching a point of support again and it's going to bounce, but I'm not strong enough yet. I want to see crypto really, really break above 90, 91, and then I'll start feeling exciting. As of the Mag 7, let's cover the Mag 7. We got Apple, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, NVIDIA, Meta, and Tesla, right? Continue dominating the headlines, accounting for 37% of the S&P 500, a weighted average of about $21 trillion, if you didn't know. It's absolutely wild how much money's in those names. Black Friday sales data shows consumer spending is increasing, so that's good. That's why I'm bullish on Amazon. Who doesn't buy stuff on Amazon? You know, where I live over here, Temu is a big thing, but Amazon is the big player in the world. You know, not Alibaba, not Temu. Amazon has the market share. Alphabet seemed to lead the pack so far. It was 24% gains with the Gemini AI optimism. Now, why is Google doing so well? Because they have the my SMR play it did get whacked. They have the market on the AI. Everything's moving so fast. I don't know if you're noticing, but when you're using your technology, you're going to see that you're going to be using AI even more. I used to type things into Google. Now I type things into multiple AI engines. I still fact check them. I still look things up, but I ask my kids to send me an email. They don't even know what that is. The world is changing very, very fast. And the leaders of this new regime are going to be the ones that are going to go up very fast in value. So shifting to the Magnificent Seven, we've got NVIDIA showing it's holding its own. Everybody thought it was going to drop to like, $20 or so. It didn't seem to do that. Let's see if it can climb back above the 180 level. We got Meta that recovered very much from its big dip. It's still about $100 or so from its high. So it's got a long way to go. They're not so strong in the AI game right now. I believe they will be. I still believe you could see $1,000 in Meta in a year from now, but they have to prove that they are getting back in the AI game. My mantra in this market is always take profits. I threw a video in the Discord just to remind everybody. I did it this morning. I actually had to rewind my own discipline and remind myself when I was scalp trading, just take the money off the table. And I did. I made a few grand this morning. It was very good. And I watched some names go up further and then tank and other names go up and down. So it's very important that you take profits, right? Especially when you get to the end of the year, the overall sentiment could go up, but it doesn't mean that the ticker that you invested in is going to max out. So unless you're, investing in the long term and dollar cost averaging and buying on the dips, I totally recommend in this market, you take profits off the table, you hold the nice 25% cash position. Let's get back. Tesla closed on Friday above my level, $430.17. That's what I was looking for. That's why I'm bullish on it. Right now it's holding at 427.29, a little bit lower, but that is the weekly close that I wanted to see in order for it to climb to the next level. Tesla needs to now, to get completely out of territory and take the goal to the finish line. It needs to really get to like the 453 to 456 level. Then you're going to watch Tesla go and potentially make new highs. What do we got going on in Tesla? You can watch my Tesla video. Elon Musk has the compensation plan, $1 trillion. Unbelievable. He needs to hit 12 levels to make it happen. Right now, Tesla's sitting at about a 1.4 trillion market cap. So he's got about 50% of an increase, or roughly a $627 price in the stock for Tesla to reach his first tranche, right? And then he'll get awarded 30-something million shares of the stock, because that's what he gets. He gets voting rights, but he's not allowed to sell it for 5 years. I believe in Elon. I believe in what he's got going on right now. And with AI and things moving the way they are, I could see these robots rolling out a little sooner than expected. But the first thing on the horizon is his self-driving cars, right? The FSD subscriptions and the car market. And then he's got the battery market that's doing very well. So we got to watch that to see how it goes and see the news on that. We had some good news out of China that his cars were sold out. One model was sold out, and they're delayed by several weeks. And the other car companies in China are getting smashed right now. So that's always good for Tesla, being the leader of the pack. Amazon and Microsoft holding up pretty well. Their gains are decent. I'm very bullish on Amazon growing, even though Google led the pack and NVIDIA bled into Google, I believe. I believe there was a rotation from NVIDIA into Google as being the new dominant current Mag 7 player. They still haven't shadowed NVIDIA's, size. Back when NVIDIA was $92, everybody said, no way, NVIDIA is going to double. How could it double? It's such a big company. But it did, because it produces a tremendous amount of money. I don't know if you know, but its past earnings, it's important to know the numbers. The amount of money that it earned in one quarter is the equivalent of the 100th largest company in the stock market. Like, it's a pretty big number, 100 quarters, and it engulfs, all these stocks. It's just ridiculous how much money they make. So they could be down, they could have competition, but they're buying into stuff constantly. So as long as NVIDIA doesn't screw up big time, they're going to be back on top. That's why I'm bullish on them. I saw them take a huge hit. It was a lot of market share. It was a massive drop in billions and billions of dollars of volume. So I believe the big players get back into it. The charts held up pretty well. And let's continue with the news. So S&P manufacturing, anything above 50 is good. It was 51.9. That means that manufacturing is growing. We had the ISM manufacturing number come in a little bit below, which was positive because it was expected to be lower than that, but still not where it should be. The economy has not fully recovered. We had quantitative easing, change right now on December 1st. They're not pumping any more money in, so we'll see what happens. With Powell's speech, we're going to see if we get rate cuts. So what do we have to expect tonight? Well, it's not a normal Fed speech. It's a discussion, likely covering the economic outlook, inflation trends, tariff discussion. There's the speculation that he's going to resign. I don't know about that. But we have an 87% chance that we're going to get a rate cut of a quarter, and that would do very well for the market in general, for small caps especially. Plus, it's an expectation. We have a lot of news that's delayed. So a lot of this stuff is going to hit the market and stabilize it. It's mildly bullish right now. What do we have on the horizon? So let's see. We've got, let's see. I got a whole list of stuff to discuss with you here. We've got on Tuesday, the JOLTS job report for October. That will flag labor slack. Wednesday brings ADP private payrolls, previewing Friday's non-farm payrolls bombshell at 8:30 in the morning. We've got import price index minus fuel and the import price index reports from September. The S&P's final U.S. service PMI for November, this is all Wednesday, and ISM services. So a lot of this stuff is going to impact how the market flows. On Thursday, we have the U.S. trade deficit reporting and initial jobless claims for November. So we're getting caught up with the news, and that's making things a little bit more stable, probably why the VIX is dropping. The fear and greed index, I like to follow, but it is CNN. They don't always update their stuff correctly. On Friday, we got consumer sentiment and consumer credit. So these are all very, very important things that are coming up, that will tell us whether we're headed in a more bullish direction or a more bearish direction, whether there's consumers coming into the market, things are being produced. Do we have more people less employed, more people employed, going into the holiday season? I personally think that Thursday with the U.S. trade deficit and the initial jobless claims is going to be a big indicator of how we're going to continue. So we may get a run up and we may get a pullback. We'll see. Just in the last few minutes, the SPY has moved down about $0.50, so it's holding its own, going up and down. I don't like to get into too much about what the major news networks do because I'm trying to do my own thing here, but CNBC is reporting December to be seasonally strong, right? They're watching earnings trickle. They want to see if the Fed's going to pivot and if there's going to be a tech rotation. In Bloomberg's a little cautious with what's going on with Asia, with how we operate with China and what the tariffs are going to be, and if there's going to be more negotiations or if Trump's going to have some kind of crazy battle and it's going to tank the markets again. We have the QT halt supportive for stocks and treasuries, so that's really good. That's what was reported on Bloomberg. On CNN, they were echoing the week's volatility. So that reflects in their fear and greed index. With December's Fed cut in focus, there's no major shocks. There's a big buzz on Ed on X, including the NVIDIA bears, which is why you're seeing a lot of that, the ASX outages, delaying announcements, and they got big crash predictions, but I am not seeing that. I think that's more hype. I heard this morning that that MSTR is going to have to sell all of their Bitcoin, but they just bought last week like $11 billion in $11 million in Bitcoin. So I don't know that sometimes there's a lot of FUD out there. You got to do your own research. In fact, MSTR is on the list to possibly be included in the S&P 500. They meet the criteria. They have met the criteria as of several months ago. So on Friday, we're going to see after hours if stocks like MSTR or SoFi are going to get included in the S&P 500. If one of those names does, I can guarantee you it's going to create some bullish momentum, especially if the general market sentiment is bullish. So now let's talk about some earnings, right? What do we got? We got on Monday, we got after hours post-market, we got Credo Technology Group and Mongo, MDB. On Tuesday, we got CrowdStrike Holdings and Marvell Technology. A lot of people are following that. And Okta. We got GitLab as well and Eagle Outfitters. So those are going to be on Tuesday. All of these have expected moves anywhere from $5 to $32. Like CrowdStrike has an expected move of $32 in either direction. So that could be a very good mover. You're looking for some picks and some moves. A lot of things make their moves, buy the rumor, sell the news, going up into earnings. So it's important to know what earnings we got. On Wednesday, we got Salesforce CRM. That's been a big one that people have been looking at, as well as Snowflake post-market, right? Snowflake's I'm a big fan of them and their technology. It's a Warren Buffett, thing. C3 AI is also up there. C3 AI is a post-market Wednesday earnings, and Macy's as well, with shopping season. Not that Macy's is as popular as Walmart nowadays, which was one of my picks going into shopping season. But they are having earnings, so you could see a bump there. And then you got UiPath. I don't really follow them. I know it's a big thing for some people. And UEC, Uranium Energy, but they didn't say what the time is. Now, a lot of you guys know I'm very big and bullish on energy stocks. I'm going to talk about that for a second. Why am I bullish on nuclear energy stocks and rare earth minerals? Well, I'll tell you why, as well as SMR, which tanked. But I also mentioned in the video when I did SMR that it was highly volatile because they don't really have big profits on the table right now. So they're speculative. I love their technology, but they're nothing like CCJ or CEG, which are doing pretty well. And for the long term, we're going to do great. The reason why I'm bullish on nuclear technology is because it's going to power all of the AI. You're not going to power AI with windmills. You're not going to power it with electric. These mega giga factories are going to require a tremendous amount of power. So until we come up with some kind of new kind of power that's hydrogen based, or the sun is somehow powering it more than solar panels, you're going to need nuclear energy. It really is the wave of the future. And right now, we don't have the fear of nuclear. The word nuclear used to scare people. It doesn't really do it so much anymore like it used to, I guess, because the media is now pumping it. So I'm a big fan of nuclear sector in general going into 2026, and rare earth minerals, which are used to create all the little parts in not only our cell phones, but in all the AI stuff that we're going to need. Remember, these AI changes that are happening are happening on such a large scale. You used to just Google something and you'd have to search forever to get an answer. Now it does all of the searches for you on a mass scale and delivers you the data in a college-like manner, however you want it. You want it to talk to you. You want it to separate it by columns. What do you want it to do? It's unbelievable how it scours everything and it delivers it to you. And that's just the beginning. Soon it's going to be in a robot form delivering it to you. It's not just Alexa and Siri and all those little junk things that we use every day. It's on our cell phones. This used to be like something we saw in Star Trek that had, all these different functions. It could scan things. You could look at it. Now it does it all on your phone. You have an app for everything, and apps are starting to become old. So I'm a big fan of nuclear. I'm a big fan of AI. I'm a big fan of robotics. I think all those industries are growing, and you have to really see what you're using and how it becomes relevant. So Thursday, we got Hewlett Packard and post-market and Sentinel One post-market. We got a Up FinTech Holding, TIGR. That's another one I'm looking at, not so much, but it's a post-market, thing. And then I decided to look up things that institutions are buying, all the tickers that the institutions are looking at. So some big institutional purchase and ownership is in MU, over 80% of institutional ownership. A lot of people like to talk about those big volume candles that you see on charts. Well, that's institutions buying in, and that's a lot of how some of the big boys, when they're reading charts, determine that there's going to be a big wave. So that big wave comes from institutional moves. NVIDIA didn't sell off because of retail deciding to sell their shares. It sold off because of a massive institution rotation from NVIDIA to Google. In my opinion, that was the big move, right? NVIDIA has 65% institutional ownership as well. So now that they've sold off a lot, they missed the first real run. Retail was in it much harder. And in my opinion, they tanked the stock back earlier in the year so that they can get a bigger position. That's just the way I see it. You're not going to outbull the bulls. You're not going to out, the big boys. So Palantir is another one. Took a big pullback. They have 45.7% institutional ownership when I looked it up this morning, as well as a few other names that you might know, FSLR, CVS, right? So these are the kind of companies that I like to look at when the market takes a big pullback. Who has the big money? Where is it going? What sectors are moving? Because sometimes there's sector rotation. It's very important to see that. You could sell covered calls if you want to hold on to your stock and you have 100 shares of it. It's not a bad idea at that point in time when you see it maxing out to sell covered calls and to take that money and invest it. Nothing wrong with that, right? So NVIDIA, we talked about. Now let's get into a few other names that I wanted to mention that I'm following, looking for some moves on because I like the technology and because I've seen some pullbacks or some hype or some discussion, and they may be a little bit off the radar right now. But at some point, they'll be back on the radar. The first one I'd like to talk about is Adobe. So let's pull up Adobe real quick so we see where we're at right now. I like to be as accurate as possible when I deliver the data. So Adobe's sitting at $323, right? Its 52-week high for the year was $557, and its 52-week low was not too far off at $311. Why do I like Adobe? Well, Adobe has some pretty cool technologies like 2D to 3D conversion that they've created. They can take a 2D image and make an animated movie out of it. They're used pretty much by everybody. When you pull up a PDF, what do you pull up? You pull up Adobe. Recently, they had big price hikes on their Creative Cloud, that's jumping up on in January 15th. And they've had a much more bullish integration with their Firefly AI tools and some other revenue growth, up 10% recently. So I think people are spending more money. I don't think anyone's rotating from Adobe's technology somewhere else. They took a very big dip. They have some AI partnership, things going on. They had some regulatory scrutiny, which might have pulled it back. But ultimately, November, everybody was scared. And a lot of the market that pulled back went right back to where it was before. So Adobe is something that I'm looking at. I'm really looking for it to close above like a 330 to 335 level to be comfortable to get in. It's got a PE of 20, which is pretty safe in the sector that it's in, so I'm looking at the stock. It's not my favorite pick, but it's on the list of stocks that I think could slowly trickle up as the market goes bullish. Typically, with the 50 years looking back on the market, we're in a bull cycle. I personally believe our bull cycle is going to last for at least another year and a half, 2 years. I think that we are going to have some dips along the way, but ultimately I believe that the names that were pulled back on, that are quality names, quality companies, are going to recover, and they're going to do very well. So those are the ones I'm eyeballing. People have asked me before, how do I look up tickers? What am I looking for? Well, when I'm not following people that are greater than me and double checking their notes, I'm looking at things like this. Another name that I'm looking at right now to get back into is UNH, United Healthcare. Somebody said this morning to me in a private message, Do you think it's time for puts on United Healthcare? And I said, I don't think so. I got to see where it's going to hold. But, United Healthcare right now is at $326. It's down about 1% today. It looks like it's going to keep going down further. It's got a PE of 17, gives you a dividend at almost 3%, but its 52-week high was $622. Its 52-week low was $234. We're no longer in that section of when they had some very big lawsuits and things pending with UNH. And that's when there was blood in the streets. And who got in when there was blood in the streets? Michael Burry, who everybody thought he was wrong when the market was going down, and he was right recently, and Warren Buffett. So two major names got into it at roughly the level that it's at right now, a little bit lower, around the 310, 315 number. So, that tells you a lot. I remember when Warren Buffett got into Bank of America when it was about $6.50, $7, and a lot of people were like, oh, I don't know, Bank of America is going out of business. And it was the same story for me. And I'm thinking Warren Buffett's looking at the same type of thing. When I was in banking years ago, we had a massive crash, right? The mortgage industry crashed. And Bank of America bought out Countrywide. That was actually illegal, in my opinion. They owned more than the maximum market share that a company could own. And they had over 20% of the mortgage market, which made them impossible to fail, too big to fail. They had government. The government was backing them. And the same thing right now is going up with UNH. Last time I was in New York, I was driving around. Everything was United Healthcare. Everything was United Healthcare. Every building that was another big hospital was now United Healthcare. So I don't think they're going anywhere, especially since the conversation right now is surrounded around healthcare. Right? There's a massive arguments, whatever political side of the aisle you're on. I'm not here to argue politics, although we could save that for another podcast. I'm just saying healthcare is a big thing right now. And there's discussions on what the budget's going to be, how much it's going to continue, who's going to take it over, who's going to increase it, and if it's not increased, wouldn't the bigger players be stronger in that market? And if it is increased, wouldn't most of the money go to the big players? So I feel like it's the same thing like in tech. When you're that big, you got the market to a degree. And yes, there have been pullbacks, but I believe it experienced its major pullback. And I don't see how it's going to dip too much further than 320, 315, where Warren Buffett got in. I could be wrong, but I just don't see it. What's the news on United Healthcare? Well, we got, let's see. Because of the policy risks, it's a defensive bet. That's what I'm thinking. We got broader rate sensitivity could weigh in on it, but overall, I don't think it's super volatile. I think it took its move, and I'm looking for it for a position. I may pick up some leaps on United Healthcare, actually. Somebody asked me earlier what I'd pick leaps on. Now I'm thinking about it. That might be something. The next ticker that I have on my watch list is Coinbase. Now, I was a big fan of Coinbase when it first came out, and it didn't actually do so well. It rose up on its IPO and then it tanked to around the level it is now, 258. Its 52-week high was 444. Its 52-week low was 142. Again, Coinbase is not doesn't have too much competition. There are rumors about Kraken and a bunch of other exchanges that are going to go public. So, but Coinbase is there. It's on the exchange right now. The crypto market's getting crushed right now. Excuse me, sorry about that. I thought I had all my phones on Do Not Disturb. Right now, the crypto market's getting crushed. The coins are all going down. So Coinbase is getting hurt, but they are the big player in the exchange. It's very easy to go open up a Coinbase account, buy some crypto and be done with it. You don't have a Coinbase account, it's much more difficult to move the money around. You got all these little minor exchanges. You got places that don't accept the money this way, don't accept the money that way. I don't have a Coinbase account anymore. It actually got hacked, believe it or not. And I closed it out and never opened up another one. But I was moving money off of Genesis Mining recently, and I wasn't able to move it to Webull. I wasn't able to move it to this one, to that one, because it wasn't an actual wallet the same way it was before. And I used to have all the exchanges, and I remember when they all closed down one by one. Again, very similar story to the UNH story, very similar story to the Bank of America story. So I'm following the same pattern here. Coinbase is the player where anybody can easily go in and buy crypto, right? Right now, Coinbase just dropped 5% today alone. I'm not saying it's a buy yet, but I'm watching for the crypto market to recover. Again, another name I would think I would take a leap on. If you wanted me to start pointing out some leap names, Coinbase is definitely up there. I want to see it hold, above 280. Really, that's kind of like where I want to see it hold. It almost just did it, but it dipped back. So Coinbase is a big name for me. It closed on Friday 264. It's down now. It was up this morning. It was up in the aftermarket, and then it was down again. But its relevance, for crypto is unparalleled. I mean, if you can name something in the chat that's as big as Coinbase that you could just go in and buy crypto and trades on the stock market, let me know. I'd love to do some research about it. But Coinbase is definitely on my radar. Next one on the radar, very, very popular name. I have a friend that actually watches this name religiously for breaks to the upside or breaks to the downside, and he has some software that watches it. I'll have him on the show one of these days. Don't want to spoiler alert it, but is MicroStrategy, MSTR. A lot of discussions around MSTR. All right, MSTR went and it traded super duper high at some point. They own 650,000 Bitcoins, over 3% of the Bitcoin market. They're currently down 7.86% today alone. Their 52-week high, $457. Their 52-week low is $155. So if they break that, they're screwed. But they're getting very close to their 1-year low, guys. So MicroStrategy, which could be on the S&P 500 or could get delisted from the Nasdaq 100 if it goes below a certain level. A lot of pressure. There was a lot of rumors that it was pressure to sell its Bitcoin, and so it turned into FUD, where people said they're selling their Bitcoin, and that's why the market's going down. No, they haven't sold any, to my knowledge. They actually bought, to my knowledge, $10.7 million last week. Michael Saylor is a very bullish on Bitcoin. His goal is every time it makes new highs, buy more. He has a whole ecosystem around creating bonds with Bitcoin, and it's a whole thing. I don't want to get into the explanation, but he securitizes himself with Bitcoin. What are you saying? MSTR broke its 52-week low today. All right, I didn't watch it the whole day, but let's see if you're right. 52-week, 150. Well, yeah, looks like, yeah, you're right. That's where the number comes from. Okay, so it's hitting. It's right there. Today's the day. It bounced off of it, looks like. Let's see. Let's pull up a chart. I wasn't really planning on charting today. Let's see if it bounced off of it. A little bit of a bounce. Not a big bounce. It's at 164 right now. It was down to 150. You say 152? Why does it show 155 here? Maybe it was maybe that was the wick. Maybe it wicked down to 152. 155 is what I see. But MicroStrategy, again, on my list, because, again, they own more Bitcoin than anybody else. So once Bitcoin recovers, they could be a big recovery play. If it doesn't, maybe take puts on MSTR. Maybe it can go down to 120. That's the next leg around 120. I'm thinking if MSTR breaks their 52-week low and steep, goes further, I would actually probably enter a put position if I saw that happen this week. So, I like the stock. I like the 2X ETF MSTX. If it starts getting strong, that was trading at a crazy level. Like, if you hit it on the low to the high, MSTX's high was $127 and their low was $4.20, which is a wild a wild move. So I actually own a little bit of the stock I bought this morning. When I saw it was down, I said, you know what, I'm going to buy some MSTX stock. Wasn't the best, play mentally from a technicals perspective, but from a longer term that I believe Bitcoin's going to recover at some point, and MSTR is going to recover. I saw it under $5, and I said, you know what? I'll pick up $1,000 in this. And if it heads back to $20, it's a massive move. And if it doesn't, I'm out $1,000. So to me, that was just a YOLO play, and I might DCA in it at some point. MSTR, we're going to look to see if it breaks its 52-week low. So those are the names I'm eyeballing right now. I'm really bullish on watching Tesla make its recovery. As many of you have watched some of my videos, the 430 level is key right now in the Monday market. It's roughly 0.5% below that level, so it's holding. I consider 0.5% a margin for error in all support levels for major names that are that big. So it's right there. I don't hit it by 4 pennies as Miss Mary and Josh do, and Mike, Money Mike. But I like to see it stay within that 0.5% range. So I'm still not scared of Tesla. It took some big dips. It held and it scaled up from the 402 level to the 415, 419, and then now to the 427 to 430 level. Let's see if it takes the next leg up back to 440 to 442, and then ultimately to the 456 level, where then we can see it moving back up to 470 to 480 and breaking highs. If it does that, we're looking at a 500 to 525 Bitcoin level. And again, for Elon Musk to hit his level, it needs to hit $627. I'm not saying it's doing that anytime soon, but I just want you to have mentally where Musk's goal is with this and what he's going to do. As long as he doesn't get into an argument with the Prez and tank the stock 15% like it did in, I believe it was May, lost a fortune that day. It was a terrible, terrible day. I was a little over leveraged on the position. One thing you should never do: learn from my mistakes so you don't have to make them. Very important not to overtrade or over leverage your positions. So that's most of the news for this week. Other than that, all I can say is, we're waiting to see. Like I said, I'll repeat a few things. We want to see SPY hold above 685, ending this week. Bullish. We want to see the rate cuts. We want good data coming out on Wednesday and Thursday from, Fed's news that hasn't been reported because it was on delay because of the government shutdown. So we're catching up on data and on news, and Powell's going to speak, and the president's working out some tariff deals, and there's a few wars going on in the world that seem to be scaling down. So we got a bunch of stuff to watch. Like I said, always take profits. So now that we are, last 20 minutes of the show, I'd love to ask what you guys like to talk about, what you guys prefer that I bring you in the news. I'm going to bring some guests on. Hopefully I'll have Miss Mary one of these days, and Money Mike and Josh. And I'll try to bring some celebs on here and there, some people that I know to speak occasionally as we get bigger. Baba, yes, great one. Actually, I'm happy you brought that up. Great ticker to bring up. I have some Baba leaps that are right now down about 15%. And I do agree. Baba is very, 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 very close to making a breakout. I like Baba going into the holiday season as well. Baba's like a sleeping giant. When it moves, it starts to move, and then you feel like you can never catch up. It's at a PE ratio of 22. Fundamentally not so bad. Market cap of 392 billion, 52-week high of 192, and I've seen Baba over 300 in the past. 52-week low at $80 was a steal. I got in at 90. I rode it up to about 115, got out, got back in at 130, rode it back up again. Baba looks like a name. Let's see. Let's take a look at Baba, actually. Let's do that. Let's take a look at the Baba chart. I don't really want to chart right now, but I'd like to help you guys evaluate this. So Baba on the daily up 4.3%. Let's switch to the 15-minute. Okay. It's just under the 9 right now, which is at On the 15-minute, it's got to break 164.20, which it looks like it's like about to do as we're speaking right now. Might not be a bad entry for BABA, but we got to see it. I like the pattern that it has. I don't love the volume, though. It's picking up, but I don't love it. MACD's good. RSI is pretty decent. Maybe BABA's entry is coming soon. What'd you say? You're DCAing in on BABA, Yancey? You're in Bob X. You took some profits today, Matt. All right. Not bad. Always good to take profits. I agree. If it pulls back, I'd love to get in. I am in the, let's see. I'll pull up my leaps. Tell you what I got. Tell you what I'm in. I actually sold some of my position last week, but I might jump back in now. I'm in the $170 June 18th, 2026 calls. Okay, so I bought them a little further out than January. I think BABA, because of the speculation with China, and we're not sure about the consumer market right now, especially the one with China. I'm skeptical on BABA. I love BABA from an AI perspective as well. I don't know if all you guys agree, but BABA's got a lot of stuff on the horizon, and they're the Amazon competitor all the way over in China. I've ordered stuff on Alibaba. I live in Israel, as some of you might know, and Alibaba, Temu, they're big purchasers here. When you order from Amazon, it's not direct to your door everywhere else in the world. It's next day in America, but it's not next day everywhere else in the world. When I lived in New York, you ordered a package, you got it. It was so addicting. You just buy. But otherwhere else in the world, it's not really that. So that's my play. I may jump in and buy a few more calls. In fact, you know what? I think I might. Let's see. Is it holding above that level? 164.27. I'm liking the candle. I don't mind. You know what? I will buy one more of these June 18th, 2026 Alibaba calls. I like Alibaba overall. Thanks for bringing that to my attention. I appreciate it. If I make some money, I have a little giveaway. That's another thing I'm going to be doing in this channel. When we get 300 people on my live session next time around, I'll do a giveaway. Right now, we hit about 60 or 70 people. I haven't really been advertising it much. Wanted to get a nice soft run with you guys. You're in Tesla, $430 calls for this week. I don't want to give financial advice. The $430 calls are right at the level of support that I like to see. What I can tell you is if Tesla doesn't hold that level, right now it's dipping, it's 426, but now we got a green candle and the RSI is wicking back up a little bit. So I'm confident. I like the 430 calls personally. I don't think it's a bad call to have. I don't want to give you advice on how you should invest, but I'm in Tesla for this week, next week, the week after. I like to buy several weeks at different, price ranges. That way, if it dips, I can get out or roll it. I like to sell covered calls when it's up to cover my position. I think Tesla is going to go move up, but we have to see it hold. Morshed Sharif, we have to see it hold at this 430 level. So, watch it closely. I would set a stop loss. I like a 20% stop loss. You could set it however you want. Sometimes I set a 30 on Tesla because it usually has higher swings. But I'll tell you what I'm seeing right now. I'm seeing a tighter movement on Tesla. Last week and the week before, we saw much broader jumps on Tesla. And that's when it was scary. When it went from 440 all the way down to under 400. And then back up to 415 and then back down. And the VIX was super high. Right now, it seems to be consolidating. It might be a very good time. It's right under pre-market high right now and right under the medium EMA, the 50. It's not where it should be for the day, but it opened up very strong. And the last few 15-minute candles, the last two of them have been down. Let's see what happens towards the end of the day. Volume's picking up a little bit. The RSI is cooling off. The MACD is going down a little, so it's not looking great in the 15-minute. If you look at it though, on the first open till now of the day versus Friday, we're down just under 1%, right? So it's not moving much. We were up to 433 today, didn't break it. I remember a few months ago when 433 was a support level. It's not exactly the technical level of support, but there was a time when 433 was an entry for me. So I wonder if that makes any sense, why it stopped at that level. I think we're finding support right where we are right now, but it has to stay. It has to hold. Very, very important. I don't like to give too much Tesla advice. 415 was the last level of support. We held above it. The stronger level of support now is the 430, the 429, the 430 level. That is the strong level of support. If it holds above there, I truly believe that we're headed higher. So are the 430 calls good? If you believe it's going to hold support, yeah. I have various calls ranging from 417 to 445. I have leaps on Tesla. Personally, if you have big money right now, leaps might be a very good option. You can buy a leap, sell a covered call against it, have some insurance there. And if it goes down, you buy your covered call back, whatever. There's a different place to make with Tesla. Tesla, though, moves very big. So I don't like to give too much advice on Tesla. I'm always nervous when I'm giving advice on Tesla other than reading the technicals that I have. Anybody else have any tickers they want me to cover that are big names or small names I can look at right now, do some fundamental research, give you guys some news on it, look it up for you, give you my take. Got about 12 minutes left. Got to take my brother to the airport today, so got to leave on time. But I'm loving these sessions, and I'm hoping you guys enjoy the news. I'm really hoping you guys enjoy that. Every week I'm going to deliver the weekly news, and you'll be able to, use that to your advantage. Know what's coming up the week. It's nice to know that we have rate cuts coming. It's nice to know that the QT ended. It's nice to know, what's going on in the market, jobless claims, how the broader market is looking at it, what the big boys are doing, what the news is doing. I find that when you have a little bit of news, you can make some moves. All right, so we got AMD, SoFi, NVDA, PepsiCo. Let me see if I can get through all those names. 3 minutes a name. I think I can do it. All right, so here we go. AMD, still a key player in semiconductors. Let's see what their PE ratio is. From a fundamental perspective, they're very high at 108. Not as high as Tesla, but compared to some other names, they are really up there. Their market cap, $356 billion. Why do I say they're up there? 100 PE is very high. It means that the company is expected to grow tremendously. It's evaluated way above 5 times what Amazon's is. So very important to note that. Its 52-week high was $267. 52-week low is $76. I like to look at AMD and call it the American money destroyer. For years, every time I would try to invest in AMD, on options, I would get crushed. And the one time I had it, I got out too early. So I don't really play AMD so much unless I'm scalping it. But AMD from a growth perspective looks good. Their Q4 guidance points to $9.6 billion in revenue, implying a 25% year-over-year growth, which is very, very good. They have a net income of $1.25 billion in the Q3, and they got a trailing P of 113, which is, not terrible considering their P is 100. They got some cash of $6.5 billion. And when you buy my chips, what do you buy? You buy NVIDIA, you buy AMD, you buy, you have Intel, right? Processors. So these are the names that are controlling us. I like AMD. I don't know that I like it right now at this level. I would like to see it hold above, let me see. AMD. Right now it's below, way below. I personally would like to see it hold above like 225, 226. I don't love it right now, but holiday season's coming up. AMD's not terrible. SoFi. All right, SoFi I know pretty well. I don't really need to look up the charts too much on it. You know, SoFi has a bunch of resistance and support levels. It's currently sitting below pre-market high, riding on VWAP right now. It's riding the VWAP line. MACD's pointing down. RSI is good. I believe SoFi is sitting at a key level of, hold. If you buy the stock, it's not bad. $25 is probably the next support level. I don't really see it going below. I sold all my short-term calls. I may jump back into it if I see that there's more hype going into them being included in the S&P 500. I was extremely bullish on it going into November, and I kept my leaps. I have SoFi leaps. I sold half of them, but I kept half of them. I have the $12 SoFi 2027 leaps that I bought when the stock was $12. I held on a few of them. I believe SoFi could be a very key player. I love what they're doing. They are a massive bank, the first crypto bank for America, and they're revolutionizing a lot of the financials. As all of you know or may not know, I was originally in banking, and I own my own mortgage. I ran a mortgage company. I own my own brokerage in America, but for real estate. But SoFi, I always hate that it takes 3 days to send a wire. So with crypto and financials all melded into one, and the meme hype for SoFi, and it possibly get it included in the S&P 500, I could see SoFi taking another leg up. But just like we need to see Tesla hold 430, we need to see SoFi climb above that $30, $31 level. NVTS. What a great ticker to bring up. I love NVTS long term. Right now, they recently got crushed. I'm a big fan of Navitas and their technology. Let's look at the chart for NVTS. I'm holding currently, I think it's the $8 NVTS leaps for 2027. They're down 3% today. Their market cap is just under $2 billion, 52-week high at $17. I called out NVTS in the Discord when it was $6 to $7 range, that it would rise above 10. I don't like to self-tout on my plays. I'm just saying I put it in the Discord when it was at that level. I was very comfortable at that level. It's gotten more hype. It's got more growth. Some time's gone by, and we're not in a volatile time as much as we were back in July and August. Thanks for agreeing with me, Joseph. Joseph Jean Marie, sorry. But I like NVTS where it is right now. It's just climbing above pre-market low, so it seems to be bouncing off the 200. It's finding support. RSI is pointing upwards. MACD's looking good. Might be a good entry soon. We really need to see it climb another dollar or so. That's where I feel very comfortable with it. My first level would be $8.58, and my next level would be $8.84. That's where I'd feel comfortable taking an entry. It's not showing a lot of volume right now. It could be slowly dying down a little bit. So, but if you wanted to get into a position of it and you're afraid it's going to move fast, or you just can't stop with the FOMO button, this is when I like leaps. So the Navitas leaps that I am in are, let me give you the exact number actually. I'm holding the $8 and $10 January 2027 leaps. Right now, you could pick up the $10 January 2027 leaps for $3.40. So if you are bullish on Navitas, they got a lot of nice stuff on the horizon. They are down, I believe, because NVIDIA is down. I believe NVIDIA is a big investor in them. You got to look at the big things that are connected to the little things, right? So Bitcoin, MSTR, there's a correlation. NVIDIA, if they invested in Navitas, correlation, right? That's the way I like to look at these things. Let's go to the next one. Pepsi Cola. I don't really cover Pepsi, but let's look at it. PepsiCo Inc. PepsiCo Inc., 52-week low, 127, 52-week high, 163. Yields almost a 4% dividend. Actually, not a bad stock if you want a dividend stock. If you want to hold it. Market cap, $204 billion. It's got a good PE of 28. Seems to be holding strong, up 4% in the last month. You know, going into movie season, going into purchase season. Doesn't look bad. You know, we had a lot of recent big share drops like the West Family Investments and a few other, hedge funds, but it's not looking terrible. Sorry that I can't give you more info. I haven't really fully charted it. It's going to take me some time. I'd have to get back into it. It might be something that Mike or Mary could chart. Let's look to talk about it maybe on Wednesday night when we have the late night to chart it with Miss Mary. We can add it to the list if you join us. NVIDIA. Okay, NVIDIA is a name that I like a lot to look at. So there's a lot of discussion on NVIDIA dropping to 163 or climbing back to the 190 level. Right now, NVIDIA is toying around the 9. It's a little bit below. It climbed today, to 180, just over 180, but it didn't push hard enough. There's just not a lot of volume today. But the RSI and the MACD are pretty good. I think NVIDIA is not terrible right now. We have to see if it's going to climb back. I saw a correlation between NVIDIA and Google, when there was a rotation. Maybe NVIDIA bulls come back as the market gets more bullish. That's exactly what I'm looking for. I'd like to see it hold above the 180 to 183 level. I'd really like to see it past 183. But for NVIDIA to really be powerful, I like 184.14 range, something like that. That's what I'd like to see for NVIDIA. NVIDIA is kind of like the SPY. It's so big, and we have to see it hold above a key level. SPY's got to be 685. Let's go back to the SPY real quick. It's been almost an hour. Let's see if it's moved in the past hour. How much, if so? 680. So, 0.25% higher than it was half hour ago. Floating right under pre-market high. Still below VWAP. So, we're not there. We're not there yet. BMNR. Funny. My nephew asked me about that this morning. I said, since when do you ask me about names? He's like, I think it's a dip buy. He's a young guy, very smart. El Natani's amazing. He just asked me about BMNR this morning. So, BitMine, I like it overall. They're not a very massive company, but again, they are following Bitcoin, right? So if we don't see Bitcoin making any moves, BMNR is not going to make any moves either. And right now, Bitcoin is down. It's not even close to a key level where I would enter BMNR personally. It would be a complete YOLO play or very, very long-term, buy if you believe in the company. I don't like where it's at right now, personally. It could bounce. I'm not saying it can't, but it's down 11%. It's in bear territory. Its 52-week low is $3.20. Its next leg down could be very, very far. I mean, it's slipped in the past month. It slipped 31%. So this is not a name that I would jump in on. Ethereum, I was very bullish on, by the way. I actually took a loss in Ethereum recently because I did not expect this crypto, sell-off. I love Ethereum. I'm very bullish on them long-term, and there is a correlation between Ethereum and BMNR, by the way. So you should see that. They're a big Ethereum-based company. If Ethereum starts to go up, you'll see it on BMNR as well. Yes, Daza, the market depends on Bitcoin when it comes to this stuff, and Ethereum as well. But Bitcoin is king of the crypto. If you look at the market cap of Bitcoin versus everything else, and the fact that it trades on multiple exchanges, and there are options and derivatives and futures and all this stuff that you don't have on these little minor coins. Without Bitcoin moving up, the crypto market is not something I want to get involved in. Personally, if I think you wanted to invest in something crypto related, maybe just buy Bitcoin and hold it, or buy a stock like MSTR and hold it. But again, it hasn't shown that it's holding support. It's just making lower highs. So you got to see it climb back to the next leg up of support. What else do we have on this list? Nothing. I got 2 minutes past my time. I'm sorry, guys. Thank you for joining me. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I really do. I hope I provided enough news. You can email me at tamirishere@gmail.com or join me on my channel anytime you want. I would love to update you on Thursday. I'll be doing a live night session, which is in the Discord as well, and you'll see it with Miss Mary, where we cover fundamentals. I cover the fundamentals, and Miss Mary covers the technicals. And we're going to do a few names like IWM and Amazon. I appreciate you guys too. I appreciate that you are listening to my information, and that's the news from Tamir. Have a great day, everybody. I got to go drive my brother to the airport, so I apologize. I would stay after hours if I could. Have a great day, guys. I'm ending the stream. Thanks for joining me.